Hello, Hayden, Hayden. Hello, welcome. Hi, good evening everyone. I'm Samantha. Alright, today I'm running a quick 1 hour session to talk about interview preparation, tips on interview preparation. Alright, so I'm just going to wait for another minute or two for people to stream in so that I will kickstart. So it's going to just be for an hour, it's not going to be long. Alright, so if any one of y'all have any question at this point in time, you can always type in so that I will remember to answer them. Okay, so if you have any questions with regards to anything with regards to interview, okay, job interview, things like that, okay, so you feel free to stay on because I'll be covering 5 main tips today, 5 things to take note when you are going for interview preparation. Alright, so if you are intending, if you have any upcoming interviews, or should you be on your way for some interviews, or if you have friends who are going through this job search journey, this phase of their job search journey whereby they are interviewing, please feel free to share this with them, invite them in, and if they have any question, I will do my best to answer all of them within this hour session. Alright, so if you have any question, just type it in so that I'll be able to see if you type in questions, I believe. Yeah, so there we go. Alright, so any one of y'all here are interviewing for jobs at this point in time? Okay, if you are and you have any question, feel free to drop them in the comment box and I will answer them tonight in fact. Okay, so I do not know where you are based, but I'm based in Singapore right now, so it is 9 p.m. Singapore time. I'll be covering 5 tips to look out for when you are preparing for interview. Alright, so if you have any friends who is going through this phase, okay, invite them in, or if you are going through this phase itself, stay tuned. Yeah, interview for a job. You're right. Assassin 2901191. You're right. Okay, so if you have any question with regards to job interview, stay on, and if you have any question, just type it in and I'm reading the chat as I'm going through. Alright, so I'm going to share 5 tips with you today to take note while you are preparing for job interview. Now, interview preparation is a long journey. Okay, so I will not be able to cover every single thing today. So if you are interested, I can have another live session. I just don't want to overload all of us at 9 p.m. Singapore time. Alright, so I'm just going to give you the framework so that you can actually, duplicate them over. Okay, so I'm going to start soon. Just wait a little while. I hope all of y'all are, have a well-rested day. How many of y'all are not based in Singapore? You are based elsewhere? You can let me know as well. Okay, come on in and stay on. don't escape the room because I'm covering some tips today. I'm just waiting for a little bit more people to come in so that we can kickstart. Yeah. Now, okay, so I'm going to just move on to the very first tip. So I'm going to cover 5 tips today when it comes to job interview preparation. Okay, now the very first thing that you need to be aware of when it comes to interview preparation is most of the interviews right now mostly are done online. Make sense? Okay, so if let's say you're having any interview that is done online, the first tip that I need to give you guys is, which is very simple and very idiot proof, is to make sure you have the necessary logistic. Number 1, okay, make sure that you have a working camera. Now, whether the job interviewer is okay, so when sometimes we go for a job interview and then it's an online interview, right? Sometimes the job interviewer don't switch on their camera. Okay, now whether they switch on or don't switch on, I will encourage all of y'all to switch it on. Okay, switch on your camera while you're doing the interview, regardless whether they switch on or not. Okay, so that being said, in terms of logistic, the first thing is make sure that you have a camera, a laptop with working camera. That's number 1. Number 2, make sure you have a good audio system. That means at least use your earpiece. Okay, you don't have to get some very expensive microphones or what's not. Don't have to, just a simple earpiece that attach it to the laptop. Okay, and number 3, make sure that your background is clean, is neat, it's not very cluttered. Okay, so if let's say you can find a plain wall, that would be good. If you can't find a plain wall, then maybe you can get a divider. Okay, so a divider may look something like that. So I'm just going to show you how a divider looks like. Okay, so if you want, you can just get a divider, something like that. Okay, so you don't have to use you don't have to use virtual background, because sometimes when you use virtual background, what happens is that it takes up bandwidth. Okay, and if you do not have a strong internet, what happens is that you become very laggy. Okay, so that's the last thing that you want. Okay, so in terms of interview preparation, first thing is make sure you have the necessary logistic: a laptop with a working camera, a earpiece, a clean backdrop. It doesn't have to be fanciful. A clean backdrop, a quiet environment, and a strong internet. Okay, so 5 things. That is the 5 things that you need to be aware of when you are preparing for your logistics in terms of job interview. Now, just like I also mentioned, should you be having a video interview, with someone else on Zoom, on Teams, or whatever platform they use, whether they switch on the camera or not, I will encourage you, for etiquette purposes, switch on your camera. Okay, so switch on your camera while you are having your interview, whether they switch on or not. Okay, so up to this point in time, anybody has any question for me? Okay, so that is the first tip that I'm covering today. Number 1 is to make sure that you have the right logistic needed for a proper interview, at least an online interview. Now, if it's a physical interview, then it's a little bit more straightforward, it's very traditional, right? Make sure you turn up on time, make sure you are dressed appropriately. Okay, even if you are doing a video interview, I will also encourage you to at least dress up. Definitely not this t-shirt, because it's it's evening, right? It's like off work time. Okay, if it's a proper interview, I'll encourage you to dress up a little bit more formal. Okay, so that is the things to take note in terms of logistics. I'm starting with the most easy things. Okay, because this kind of things you don't need any brain power, and you can make sure that all those stuff are ready. So I'm going to cover 5 tips tonight within this hour session. Okay, and I'm starting with the simplest one. Okay, getting your logistic ready. Okay, so later on I'll move on to a little bit more difficult questions, which usually is questions that people will be wondering. Okay, so at this point in time, anybody has any questions that you would want to ask about job interview, okay, then I will encourage you to stay on. If you have anyone who, your friends who are interviewing or going through this phase, you can share this video with them or share this link with them, because I'm not going to stay here for long. Again, I really had a super long day, and I'm not going to continue talking for another 2 hours. So I'm just going to stay here for another 15 minutes, because I dedicated an hour for today's session to run through some tips to take note when you are doing your interview. Okay, so the very first tip that I gave to the earlier audience is make sure that you have your necessary logistic. I'm starting with the most simple basic stuff when it comes to interview. Make sure you have a necessary logistic. Number 1, a laptop with a working camera, a earpiece to make sure that you have some noise cancellation. That's number 2. Number 3, make sure you have a neat background. Okay, it can be a plain white wall, that's fine. Okay, just make sure that it's clean. Make sure that the environment is quiet. Okay, you don't want like having too many noise and then people can't hear you. And lastly, make sure you have a strong internet connection. Okay, so this is assuming that it's an online interview. Now, if it's a physical interview, it's more traditional, it's more straightforward. Okay, make sure you turn up on time, make sure you dressed up, alright? Okay, so I'm starting with the most simple basic stuff. Okay, make sure you get your logistic ready. Okay, so far anybody has any other questions, right? You can just type in the comment box, and then I'm reading them, so I will be able to address them along the way tonight, alright? Okay, so that is the very first tip, making sure that your logistic is ready. And I also mentioned that if let's say you are doing an online interview, whether your interviewer switch on their camera or not, I will encourage you to switch on yours. Okay, I know it's weird talking to a screen and there's like no faces to it. Okay, so suck it up. The world has changed. It's like that. It's as if I'm talking to myself right now. It's exactly the same. Okay, so I urge you to get used to it, especially if you're going through this phase. Okay, switch on your camera as a form of respect. Whether they switch on or not is their problem. I would encourage you to totally switch it on. Okay, and be used to looking at the lens, looking at the video, and then having no response. You have to be so used to it. Okay, so that is one thing to take note. Now, there are some pre-work that you need to do when you are going for an interview. So when I say pre-work, make a guess. Any idea what kind of pre-work you need to do? Anyone? Ding, ding, ding. Okay, I don't think I will get any response basically, because I can't hear you anyway, and you guys come and go and leave and go, right? Alright, so but think about it. What are some of the pre-work that you have to do when you receive a job interview? Like, someone offer you, hey, hello, we arrange you for an interview. Okay, so what is some of the pre-work that you need to do? Alright, so three pre-works that you need to do. Number one, please remember what role you are applying for. Okay, you know, the job seekers that I come across, all my clients, they just spam their application. You know, they see a job thinking that they can excel in that role, they just spam. Okay, so maybe 1 week you can send 50 applications, and you will definitely lose track of what you have applied. Okay, so if someone call you up for an interview, the first thing is to figure out what role you have applied. It makes sense, right? I think I'm talking sense here. Okay, make sure you know what role you are applying for. Sometimes within the same company, you can apply for more than one role, and don't get confused. So make sure you know what role you are applying for. Dig out the JD. The job description is going to be very important for you in the next few questions, or the next few tips that I'm going to run through. Alright, so for anyone who is just popping in, I'm running through some of the things to take note when you are preparing for your interview. Alright, so if you are going through this phase right now, whereby you are applying for jobs, you are going through interviews, or you have friends who are going through this phase of their life right now, feel free to share this link with them, invite them in. It's free, okay? Whatever that I'm sharing here is free. The content is free, but people actually pay me for my expertise, so y'all get it free, okay? So come on in, stay, okay? Don't leave, okay? You should totally stay on and hear me talk. Alright, okay, so I mentioned, okay, so I was saying, yes, dig out the role, dig out the job description, because it's going to help you to prepare yourself for the next few important interview questions. Okay, so pre-work, number one, make sure you know what role you're applying for, and make sure you have the JD with you. Now, the second thing that you need to figure out is who are your interviewer. Okay, you need to be an investigator. Okay, you need to figure out who are you going to speak to. Okay, in Chinese, they say if you know your enemy, is know yourself, know the enemy is half the battle won. Okay, so you need to know yourself, and then you need to know your enemy, and then in this case, your enemy is your interviewer. Okay, so one thing very easy to figure out who is your interviewer if it is an online interview. Okay, now if it's an online interview, usually they send you the online link, right? The calendar invite. Sometimes in the calendar invite, you will also get to see who else are invited for the event. So with that email or the name available, you will be able to go and do a background check or understand the background of your interviewer. And you can use LinkedIn to help you to do so. Most of the time it works, okay? Most of the time it works. I wouldn't say 100% that it works, but most of the time it works. Alright, so you need to figure out the background of your interviewer by that. Now, if the calendar invite has nobody, okay, the second thing that you can do is you can actually check back with the person who arranged the interview with you. You know, there is no hard and fast rule that you cannot ask question. Okay, so don't be afraid to ask question. You can, if the person email you hey, we actually arranged you for an interview on this date and this time. Alright, then you can reply and say, thank you so much, I look forward to the interview. May I also check with you who will be involved in the interview? Ask. Okay, no one is going to kill you if you ask. In fact, they will be okay to tell you if they... Okay, I haven't come across a situation whereby they don't tell you. Seriously. So, make sure you figure out who's your interviewer. Number one, see whether the calendar invite has the interviewer's email or they are invited. Number two, check with the person who arranged the interview. They will be able to tell you, okay? That is so straightforward. You don't even need to guess. Now, number three, the third method, okay, which is not the best method, but it is good method as well is you go and find out who works in the company. Okay, find out who works in the company, and these are the few people that could possibly be interviewing you. Number one, it could be just the HR. Number two, it could be your hiring manager. So when I say hiring manager, I'm referring to your reporting boss. That means your immediate supervisor. Okay, not anyone else, but usually it's your immediate boss. Okay, so this is the third method. Okay, so repeat myself because some of you all pop in, pop out. Hello, Danny. So find out who is your interviewer. Number one, if the calendar invite has their name and address or email address, there you go. It's very obvious they are your interviewer. Number two, you can also check with the person who arranged the interview with you. So you can say, can I chat with you at the same time who will be interviewing me for that session? Sometimes it's good to ask because you never know, is it a group interview? Sometimes it's a group panel interview. So that means to say there are a few people interviewing you at the same time. So you need to get yourself prepared, right? So make sure you ask. Or sometimes there could be other candidates. So maybe it could be a group interview. Alright, so it could be a panel interview, it could be a group interview. So figure that out. Alright, or lastly, you go and find out who works in the company. Alright, and then usually the first round of interviews should be the HR or the hiring manager or both. Okay, so that is the pre-work part. You need to know who are your interviewers. You need to speak their language. Okay, so you need to understand roughly their background. Okay, some of us may be concerned like how old they are. Okay, sometimes these are good things to figure out. All right, and yeah, and maybe their experience as well. That will be important because if you understand their experience, you will know how much they know or how much they will ask you in terms of, if let's say you're applying for a technical role, okay, then you will be prepared for it as well. Okay, and the last thing that you need to do in your pre-work. Okay, so the first thing about pre-work is you need to know what is the role that you're applying for, right? The second thing about pre-work is you need to know who are your interviewers. And the third pre-work is very obvious, which I think everybody should be aware of, is the company, the background of the company. So number one, when you just look at the company, don't just look at the website. It's not good enough. Okay, so when I talk about company, I'm talking about what trade is the company in. Okay, what is the company actually doing? Okay, number two, you need to know if there's any news about the company, like any recent news, any recent project that the company is embarking on. Okay, and number three, you can also find out who are the competitors of your company, of this company that you're going to interview. Okay, competitors. Okay, so when you have all this information, all this will serve as very good content when you're having a conversation with your interviewer. Okay, so interviewing is actually a conversation. It's actually communication. Alright, so don't take it too stressful that everybody is like trying to assess each other. Okay, so it is about conversation. Okay, so that is the second tip for tonight. The first tip, if you missed out, is make sure that you have the necessary logistic. Okay, make sure you have if it's an online interview, make sure you have a laptop with a working camera. Whether your interviewer switch on their camera during the interview, you are encouraged to switch on yours. Okay, number two, make sure you have a earpiece. Okay, plug it into your laptop and use a earpiece. Number three, make sure you have a clean, nice background. Okay, it's neat. Number four, make sure that there is no external noise that is so noisy. And lastly, make sure that the environment, you are near a strong internet connection. Okay, now if let's say your internet connection is a bit weaker, then I'll encourage you not to use virtual background. Okay, because virtual background actually does take up bandwidth. Alright, so that is the first tip that I share with those who came in earlier. The second tip that I share with you is you need to do your pre-work. Pre-work consists of, number one, knowing what role you're applying for. Okay, number two, the background of your interviewer. And number three, the background of the company, which includes any recent projects, competitors, things like that. Okay, so far any question with regards to job interview? Okay, with regards to my sexual orientation, is not part of the equation and it will not help you to get a job anyway, so I'm not going to answer that question. Alright. Okay, so anybody else who has any questions with regards to job wise, all right, you can drop them in the chat. I will reply. Okay, anything that is not related, I will take it offline. If you're so interested, you can ask me personally, but I doubt I will answer you anyway. And I don't think it will affect you also lah, huh? Whether I less or not. Okay. Any one of y'all going through job interviews right now, y'all can let me know. Or any one of your friends going through job interviews right now, you can let me know too. Okay? You can let them know so that they can come in. Okay, so it's just going to be an hour session tonight. Usually I don't do too long a session, so it's going to be 9 to 10 p.m. Singapore time. I've been talking the whole day, so I need a break after this. Okay, so alright, so that is 2 tips that I've shared with you so far. Okay, anyone else have any questions? I'm not seeing any questions related to work, so yeah, I'm moving on. Okay, now the third thing that you need to prepare job interview, you need to have career clarity. Okay, so if you are really sincere about understanding doing well for your job, right, you better take a pen and paper or type it in your phone right now. Okay, all this will cost you. People pay me to run through this in the workshop, but you're going to get it free tonight. Okay, so career clarity. Now you realize that during my interview preparation today, when I share with you tips on interview preparation, I'm not just going to tell you I'm not going to go through the typical interview questions. You know why? Because you can find them easily online. You can find them on Google. It's all at so long as you type into Google, you can find it already. So there's no point for me to go through that. Okay, but what I really want to do with you tonight is really to teach you how to fish instead than to give you the fish, because you can find a lot of fishes on Google. You don't need me to give you the fishes, right? So I'm going to give you the framework, and the framework, the thought process is what that is very, very critical. Okay, so when I talk about when I talk about career clarity, okay, if you have absolute clarity in what you are looking out for, interview will be a breeze. Okay, interview will be a breeze. Okay, so what are some of the things that you need to be aware and be very clear on, or if you're not clear on, you need to start getting clear, or you will get clear along the way. All right, so the first thing about getting clear with your career itself is, number 1, you need to understand your personality. Okay, what is your personality type? Okay, what kind of environment are you suited for? If today, I know maybe some of us are looking for a job, urgently looking for a job for whatever situation we may be in. I understand and I can empathize with that. Okay, but the last thing that you want is to go through this vicious cycle of like getting into a job, getting out of the job, getting into a job, and getting out of the job. It's very, very painful. Okay, so you need to know your personality. Are you suited to be in this environment? Okay, so for example, I have a client. She is a stay-home mom. Okay, so she stayed home for 2 years and then she decided to come back to workforce. Okay, she used to be an engineer and then she started wanting to have some time flexibility. Now, when I speak to her, I absolutely will have a very clear understanding of her strength. Okay, in terms of her personality, she is someone who enjoys building things, doing things by herself. Okay, and then she tell me that she decided to become a real estate agent. Okay, so there is a huge contrast between the nature of the business, which is a real estate agent, versus her personality. I'm not saying that it's impossible. It is possible, but that time frame is going to be much longer. So if you are urgently looking for a job, then that will not be recommended. If you have all the time and all the freedom in the world to explore other areas, to groom other aspects of your interest and talent, go ahead. Okay, I'm not stopping you. But if you're urgently looking for a job and you want to put food on the table, the keyword is very urgent, desperate. Okay, it has to be pretty immediate. Then you want to work on your strength. You want to be in a place whereby it will make you shine and make you glow. You don't have to put in the extra effort to overcome your own, your own challenges or your own weakness. Okay, so when it comes to your skills, okay, sorry, Repeat when it comes to your strength. Okay, when people talk about should you focus on your strength or should you focus on your weakness, when it comes to your strength, focus on your skills. Okay, the skills is what is going to get you the job. The skills is what is going to pay you. Okay, people pay you for your skills. Okay, people is not going to pay you for any other things. People pay you because you solve their problem. Okay, so people pay you for your skills. So if you want, so for adults like all of us, assuming you are all adults, and if students you are tuning in, fine. Okay, you have any other questions, you can drop it in so can I answer you separately. Now, assuming that you are all professional workers, you have been in the workforce for some time may not be on your side. So you want to maximize every chance and opportunity you have. So if you want to focus on your strength, focus on your skills. Okay, because by putting in the same amount of effort, right, if you focus on your strength, your skill strength, you're going to get better results compared to you if you focus on your weakness. Alright, okay, so that's the first thing. You need to understand your personality. Where are you most suited in? Okay, if you are someone who hates paperwork, I tell you, don't go and do admin and desk bound job. It's going to kill you, I tell you. Alright, so you need to know what makes you shine, what makes you happy. I think being happy in your job is also very important. It's not about just getting the money, right? You want to do happy work. You want to be doing meaningful work, at least minimally. Alright, so yes, okay, so understand your personality. And I also mentioned 2 words along my sharing just now is, besides understanding your personality, you need to understand what is your strength. Okay, your strength could be skills, could be separated in 2 types of skills. One is hard skills and one is soft skills. Hard skills are things that gets you the job. Soft skills is the one that makes you stay in the job. Okay, so you need to focus on your so you need to know what's your strength. In fact, if you know what is your strength, that will be perfect, because during interview people will ask you questions like tell me one strength of yours. Tell me what will your colleague talk about you. Tell me a quality that your colleague will mention about you. Why should we hire you? Okay, so similar questions like this is asking you to tell them about your strength. Okay, so you need to know your strength. Alright, if you know your strength, you also need to know your weakness. Okay, so for example, sometimes during job interview they may ask, share with me, a weakness of yours, or one thing that you face challenge in and how you overcome it. Is as good as asking you to tell them what is a weakness. Okay, what is our weakness? Okay, so in terms of career clarity, you need to understand a few things. Number 1, your personality. Number 2, your strength. And number 3, your weakness. Alright, so what is going on here is I'm running through some of the things that you need to prepare for interview. Alright, now when I talk about weakness, I just want to pause here. When you talk about weakness, choice of words is very important. Okay, and I'm not asking you to bluff or exaggerate or bullshit. No, in an interview you still need to be truthful. But I also want to share with you a quote that I came up with. Truth can be told in many ways. Okay? So you need to position what you say carefully. For example, alright, so sometimes when I run through interview preparation with my clients, and then I'll ask them, so tell me, something that you're working on right now, a quality that you're working on right now. It's also as good as asking you what's your weakness. Okay, so for example, a few of my clients will say, I'm a very impatient person. Okay, so being impatient is their weakness, correct? Alright, so hanging there, I just want you all to take a second to think about it. When someone says that they are impatient, what is the first impression that comes to your mind? Do you associate it to something positive or something not so positive? Okay, so if you say something is, someone is impatient, quite naturally you will associate it with something that is not so positive, right? So it has a negative connotation to it. Alright, so I will ask my client, so what do you mean by you're impatient? So he will elaborate a bit more. He say, I'm impatient because sometimes when it comes to certain work, I want it to be done perfect and I want to deliver good results. Okay, so when you tell people what is your weakness, you don't just tell them an adjective, I'm impatient. But the thing is, what is causing you to be impatient could be many other reasons. You know, what you are impatient about could be different from me, all right? So we all interpret it differently. So to make the life of your interviewer easier, you need to connect the dots for them. You don't assume that they know what you're talking about, because they don't. In fact, they don't even know you. Okay, they're just going to know you within that hour, within that 30 minutes that they are spending time with you. Okay, so when someone asks you what is your weakness, the words that you choose must be very careful, and ideally it should be something that is not, it doesn't, you know, people don't associate it to something negative. Okay, so for example, instead of saying that I'm impatient, because my client says that he's impatient because he wants things to be perfect, he wants to see results fast, right? Okay, so you can change it around. Okay, as I said, truth, you must tell the truth, but truth can be told in many ways. Okay, it has to be something that your receiver can receive it with an open heart. All right, you don't want them to judge before they understand what you're talking about. So you can rephrase it. Instead of saying that I'm impatient, you can tell the person, okay, if there's one weakness that I'm aware of and I'm working on right now, is I tend to be a little bit more goal-oriented when it comes to work. Okay, so I use the words here. Instead of impatient, I use the word goal-oriented or task-oriented. Okay, so at least it is still a good thing. You know, at least, you know, when I hire you, I do want you to get the job done, you see. All right, so comparing these two words, task-oriented, goal-oriented, is better than being impatient. Okay, so you can explain. You can say that, when it comes to work, I tend to be a little bit more goal-focused, goal-oriented. And as a result, sometimes I may be a little bit more, I may forget about how other people are feeling. Okay, so this is something that I'm aware of, and hence I'm working on it right now. Okay, so you can rephrase what you want to say in another way. Okay, so that's something to take note when it comes to talking about weakness. I wanted to take a pause here to elaborate a little bit more about weakness, is because most people just stop at one adjective and it's not going to work for you. Okay, so just be mindful of the choice of words that you are using. All right. Okay, so besides understanding your personality, your strength, and your weakness when it comes to career clarity, the next thing that you may want to find out is what's your talent. I'm not so sure anyone who is tuning in right now, is any one of you a career switcher? Okay, so you could have achieved certain level of career success already, and now you are looking at doing a career switch. Okay, now most of the time, if let's say you know what is your talent, it's easier for you to do a career switch that is related to your talent. Okay, so that is the reason why I say that you need to figure out what is your talent. Now, what is the difference between talent and strength? Does anyone knows? Okay, so when it talks about strength is something that is already a skill. Okay, it is something that is already there. It can, like, you can immediately monetize your strength. Okay, if you put it to good use. When I talk about talent could be something that you haven't put in enough energy, time, and effort, right, to convert it into a strength. Okay, so it could be a hidden talent, and yeah. Okay, so you need to figure out what's your talent. Perhaps maybe you are musically inclined, you are very good at dancing, you are a good cook. Okay, you are really good with, you know, coming up with good flavor food, you know, things like that. You have an eye for aesthetic, things like that. That could be a talent. Okay, so you need to figure out what's your talent. But that's not the most important thing during job interview. But in terms of career clarity, it is important. Okay, what else do you need to know is you need to know your interests. Okay, and when I talk about interests, in this case, I'm referring a little bit more to career interests. Okay, what makes you excited? What makes you happy in this role? Okay, it has to be aligned with your values. Okay, so just this earlier today, I was having a session with a group of 20 over students. Okay, so when I was listening, okay, one of them actually shared something, and I thought it makes sense. Like, this lady, she got 2 offers, but she was struggling which one should she go for. Okay, so we came to realize that, hey, you are struggling because there's a misalignment of your the values that you have versus what the career can provide. All right, so you need to understand what is your career interest, where does your interest lies. Okay, so that's very important in terms of career clarity. Some people enjoy certain nature of job, or sometimes you can talk about career interest could be related to the culture of the company. You could also refer to the team dynamics. Okay, because sometimes, which is most of the time, people leave a job because of the people, the culture, the management, the team, and it's not because of the job per se. All right, so you need to make sure that the job that you are getting into, the career aspect of it, is aligned with what you are looking out for in your career. Okay, and there's 3 big words here that I'm going to continue in terms of career clarity, which is so big a word that maybe it will freak all of us out. But I also want to give you the assurance is that if you have not figured that out, that's okay. So long as you are constantly being engaged with what you are doing, you will get clarity along the way. The 3 big words are passion, mission, and purpose. Okay, so yeah, so I know I know that you may think that I have drifted away when to talk about this versus interview preparation. Now, the reason why this is very important is if you do not have certain level of clarity, and when the interviewer asks you certain questions, especially slightly more personal, it's very hard for you to answer. Okay, so they may even ask you questions like, what do you see yourself in 5 years time, which is a very common question. Okay, so if you do not have clarity on your career, it's very difficult for you to answer, which of course most of the time how people will answer is they will say something along this line that I see myself growing in the company, managing a team, climbing to a senior level within the company. Okay, so that is the usual standard 10-year series answer. Okay, but if you want it to be from the bottom of your heart, to be more genuine and be really authentic about your replies, you really need to have that level of clarity in your career, and it will really help you in your job search, meaning to say you will not just apply jobs for the sake of applying. Okay, so that is something that I wanted to encourage all of you, because especially during COVID, right, what I see is that a lot of people are just spamming application, and at the end of the day, number one, you get very frustrated because no one reverts. That could be one. Number two, even if you get the offer, you don't stay in the job for more than 3 months because it is not aligned with your values, it's not aligned with your career interests. You end up getting very frustrated in the job, and then you have to start looking for jobs all over again. Okay, so it is a very painful cycle, and I will strongly discourage anyone to go through that, because anyone who keep going through this vicious cycle is going to eat you up internally, and I don't want any one of you all here who is tuning in with me tonight to feel so jaded about life, because life is awesome. Okay, so yeah, so that's the third tip that I want to share tonight, is in terms of career clarity, you need to have that level of understanding of yourself. Okay, so once you have that level of understanding of yourself, answering questions like, what is your strength, what is your weakness, why should we hire you, it's very easy. Or tell me about what do you see yourself in 5 years. So long as you have clarity, you can answer all these questions, and you don't even need a model answer for it, because it is from you, genuine, authentic. Okay, people will like it. All right, so that is something that I really want to encourage you to have. So you may think that I'm not covering questions, but in fact I'm covering questions, but I'm giving you the framework, because I'm not going to give you how to answer questions. Like, I'm not going to give you the model answer, because in the interview there's no such thing as model answer. All right, so that's number 3. In terms of pre-work, you have to do some pre-work. All right, what is the 4th tip that I want to share with you tonight is, okay, this one is slightly more technical. Okay, so the 4th tip that I want to share with you is about yourself. Okay, so the very first question that people will always ask you during job interview, the first question is, tell me more about yourself, right? Okay, so yes, this is something that I will touch on in terms of technicality of answering, because this is important. It will leave an impression. It's either a make it or a break it kind of thing. The previous thing that I talk about career clarity, that will help you in subsequent questions. Now, tell me about yourself. Okay, this is very, very interesting, and this must be very strategic. Okay, so what most people will do when they come to this question, tell me about yourself, do you know what they end up doing? They end up telling everybody, they end up telling their interviewer the entire history of themselves. That means, oh, I graduated from ABC University in 20, give you a demonstration. Tell me about yourself, right? Then someone will say, oh, hi, I'm Samantha. I graduated from NUS in 2006, with engineering degree. But after I graduate, I never do engineering. I went on to do A, and then subsequently I stayed there for 2 years, and then I went on to do B, and then I stayed there for 3 years, and then I went on to do C. Okay, so self-introduction. So most people end up doing self-introduction like that. You just literally walk them through your history, and that is not the way you should answer. Tell me about yourself. Wrong, okay, don't do that. Okay, because you will lose their attention immediately. Okay, especially if it's an online interview. Who has the attention span now anyway? Okay, look at all of you here. You all join in, join out, join in, join out. No attention span. Okay, so basically people has no attention span right now. So you have to get used to people leaving, coming in, leaving, coming in. I'm talking about myself. So if you all hear this, right, don't keep leaving lah. Okay, anyway, back to this question, this very important question. Tell me about yourself. Now so in the context of job interview, tell me about yourself. You need to be able to tell them why you are a good fit for this role immediately. Okay, it's not telling them about your history, because you know what? They know your history because they have your resume. They probably have do a background check on you. So why you want to tell them your background? It's so boring, right? So you have to tell them more strategic stuff, which means to say the job description here comes in. Remember just now I say during your pre-work, you need to find out which job you applied for. So the JD is important. Okay, so for example, if whatever you say in your self-introduction must be related to the job description, that will make you a good fit for the role. Okay, so I'm going to give you a formula. The first line, the first opening, in terms of tell me about yourself, you can follow this formula. I help A to achieve B by doing C. Okay, so that is the first line. Okay, so for example, I'm a career success coach, and I work with professionals to achieve career success in their career transition by equipping them with career-related skills. Full stop. Okay, I help A to achieve B by doing C. Okay, so that is a very simple formula that if you happen to listen, you can take it away, and that will be the first line of opening. I'm a digital marketing specialist who helps company to achieve 100% marketing outreach by doing Facebook campaign, something like that. Okay, so I help A to achieve B by doing C. Okay, so that is the very first line in your self-introduction. You say that. Okay, you say that, and then you elaborate a little bit more. So I'm a career success coach, and I work with working professionals to achieve career success by equipping them with time-tested career skills. For example, throughout my past 10 years of personal professional development, I work with professionals from different backgrounds such as oil and gas, finance, technology, blah, 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 blah. Okay, so whatever that you're going to say there, okay, after your first line, right, can be related. So draw relevance from the job description. Okay, so I hope I give you a very good opening. In fact, this is one of the best opening that you can use it. In fact, even if you're not going for job interview, if you happen to be an entrepreneur who happen to be flipping through TikTok videos right now, and you want to do an elevator pitch, okay, so self-introduction, elevator pitch, when you want to go out there to network, you want to connect with people, when you want to reach out to recruiters, that is the first line that you can say. Okay, I'm an operations specialist, and I help companies to achieve efficiency by 20% by doing cost-cutting measures, from something like that. Okay, so that is the very first line in terms of self-introduction. It has to be strategic. Don't tell them grandmother, grandfather story, and don't walk them through your resume. Nobody cares. Seriously, nobody cares. Okay, I'm going to tell you straight in your face. They don't care, and they will lose attention in the first 5 seconds if you don't get it. Okay, if you don't get it right, nobody's going to listen to you. Alright, so make sure that your self-introduction is solid and relevant to the job description. Anything that is not relevant to the job description, right, you shouldn't even be talking about it. Because if they are even interested, they will ask you. If they are not interested, that means to say they are not interested. Means to say you don't have to waste your time talking about it. Okay, so that is the thing about self-introduction. Again, the formula is I help A to achieve B by doing C. Okay, so that is the very first line that you say, and then you elaborate with a few examples. And your self-introduction shouldn't take anything more than a minute. Ideally, about a minute will do. A minute is how long? It's about a TikTok video. Okay, so how long you spend watching a TikTok video is how long should the introduction be. If you spend even shorter time on a TikTok video, means to say your self-introduction has to be even more concise and straight to the point, so that people get you get their attention immediately. Okay. Alright, so that is in terms of self-introduction. Now, what if I just need the money? So this Kudo SDDG, what if you just need the money? Then you just need the money. Any job can give you money. Yeah. Yeah, what if you just need the money? Any job, there are many ways to make money. Yeah, so, yeah. Okay, so that's in terms of self-introduction, yeah. The next thing that I wanted to talk about, which is also very important, is salary. Salary expectation. Okay, assuming that this is the first interview. Okay, one thing that I need you to do before you go into any interview is I want you to ask yourself this question: how much are you worth? Okay, I asked this to 10 people. 10 people cannot answer me how much they are worth. So, if you want to have a good pay, if you want to win in your negotiation, you will not win any negotiation if you don't even know what you want. Likewise, in a salary-wise, if you are going into a salary negotiation without even knowing what you are being valued at, you're not going to get it. Okay, because no matter what is the outcome, it doesn't matter because you don't even know what you want. You don't even know how much you are worth. Okay, so the very first thing when it comes to salary, everybody talks about salary, everybody talks about wanting a better pay, but what is a better pay? Okay, what is good enough for you? Okay, so you need to know how much you are worth. That's the first thing. When I say how much you are worth, you also need to know what is the minimum that you can accept. That means the deal breaker. If anyone offers you anything less than that, you are willing to walk away. Okay, so you need to know when to walk away from a bad deal. Okay, there are many bad deals in life. Okay, so you need to know when to walk away when it is a bad deal. If you have tested and tried and it's a bad deal, please walk away. Okay, no one should lowball you. Okay, I don't believe in putting down the lowest salary so that people can hire you. People are very skeptical now. Even if you put a low salary, people will be wondering, is this person real or not? Okay, when I hire this person, will I be in trouble? Okay, so when it comes to salary, the first thing is you need to know how much you are worth. You need to know what is your minimum. Okay, if anybody offers you anything less than that, you will walk away. Number 3, you need to know what is the market rate. Okay, benchmark it. You need to do some benchmarking. How much is that position in that specific industry getting? Okay, usually it's not a per month. Usually people talk about annual salary, that means per year, because you can include bonus, you can include benefits, allowance, commission, etc. Okay, so know how much you are worth, know what is your minimum, and know what is the market rate. If you do not know any of this, right, then you don't bother talking about salary, because either way, either way you don't even know what is good for you, right? Correct? So if you want to have a good deal, okay, you need to know these 3. Okay, I repeat again. How much you are worth, what is your minimum, and what is the market rate. So knowing all these 3 things, and when you go for a job interview and someone asks you what is your salary expectation, this is a point in time whereby you don't give them a figure. You don't tell them that I'm looking at 5,000. Never give them a figure, okay? Never, ever, ever give them a figure. Okay, so when it comes to negotiation or giving them that ballpark figure, is always testing water, is always thinking about having that room for negotiation, the room for discussion. Okay, you don't want to shortchange yourself. If you quote something that is too high, people may, put you out of the next few rounds of interview because they don't think they can afford you. You also don't want to afford quoting too low because people will lowball you. So that's why you need to do some homework, yeah? Okay, so instead of giving them a figure, I will encourage you to give them a range. Alright, so for example, if you come across certain job posts, and sometimes certain job posts have a budget, then you quote the budget lah. Okay, say, when I apply for this job, I saw that the salary range allocated for this role is between 8,000 to 10,000. This is something that is within my range right now. Okay, and I would like to continue having more, I would love to have the opportunity to continue on with the interview to assess whether I'm a good fit for this role before we talk about the salary. Okay, so this is type number 1, you know the range already. Number 2, if you don't know the range, that means when you apply for the job, there is no range given in the job description. Okay, so that's where your market knowledge comes in. So you can tell them, when it comes to salary expectation, I'm open for negotiation. Now, I did some market research before coming for this interview, and I understand that for this role in this particular industry, the range is between 8,000 to 10,000. And this is within my expected salary as well. However, before we commit to the salary portion, I would feel that, okay, I think it will be fair for the company to assess whether I'm a good fit for this role before we discuss the salary wise. Now, maybe at this point in time, can you share with me what is the allocated budget the company has for this role? Okay, so when it comes to salary expectation, when people ask you, don't give them a figure, give them a range. The range allows you to negotiate. Okay, now just today, actually not today, yesterday, one of my client actually make a boo-boo. She was very nervous because maybe the question comes quite unexpected and you panic. Okay, you panic and you give a figure. She gave a figure, and the figure was much lower than what she expected, in the sense that she wanted a bit more, but because she panicked, so she gave a bit less, because she was afraid that they will not give her the second round of interview if she quotes too high. This is a very normal emotion, I would say. So that's why I say when it comes to interview preparation, you need to brace yourself for questions like this, and you need to be confident. So everything I say, right, if you do not have confidence, it also will not work. Alright? So you need to have confidence about what you're talking about, which is really important. Okay, so that's the salary portion. You need to be confident that you're worth that much. If you're not even confident that you're worth that much, or if you're not confident that you can deliver, then quite hard already. Alright, so at the end of the day, I think self-confidence is also very important in an interview. Okay, so no matter how good your answer is, but if you do not have confidence that you can deliver, it's going to be tough. Okay, it's going to be tough. So I will encourage you to believe in your skills, believe that you have what it takes to deliver, and then you can get that value. Because at the end of the day, money is actually a byproduct of your value, of the value that you can create. If you can solve big problems, generally your paycheck is bigger. As simple as that. Okay, so in terms of the real world out there, the bigger the problem you solve, the more you are being paid. Yeah. Okay, so if you want a higher salary, you need to make sure that you are also highly competent. Alright. Okay, so hi Sky. Okay, I do not know what is this. Xiongxing Ma. Okay, I'm so sorry, I don't understand. Is it a dialect? Okay, so that is in terms of salary wise. So so this is the heavier part, that's why I leave it to much later. Okay, so I don't know if any one of you have any other questions. I have covered 4 tips so far. Okay, so as I said, I'm covering 5 tips. The first tip is very simple. Make sure that your logistics are all ready. Working laptop with camera, good internet, quiet environment, clean backdrop. If you don't want to use virtual background, that's fine. on your camera when you're having the interview. Yeah. Number 2 is you need to do some pre-work. Pre-work includes who are your interviewer, the background of the company, as well as what is the role. Okay. Number 3 is career clarity, your personality, your weakness, your strength, your talent, your interests, your values, and of course the last 3 big bombastic words that everybody talk about: passion, mission, and purpose. Okay, if the last 3 you don't know, it's okay. Okay, because everybody is figuring out and you are not in this alone. Okay, but the first few that I mentioned you must know, because it will help you to answer questions like, tell me about your strength, tell me about your weakness. Okay, so this is important. Number 4, I talk about tell me about yourself. Okay, telling someone about yourself is not telling them your resume. Okay, don't tell them your entire history, because nobody cares. All right, so a simple formula that I gave you is I help A to achieve B by doing C, and then you elaborate a little bit more, and whatever that you elaborate should be closely correlated to the job description. Okay. And I also talk about salary expectation. Now when it comes to salary wise, never give them a figure, give them a range. Okay, so when you are preparing for interview, make sure that number 1, you know what is your worth. How much are you worth? Number 2, you need to know what is your minimum. That means the walk away deal. If it doesn't meet this amount, you're going to walk away from this deal. You are willing to walk away from this deal. And number 3, you need to know what is the market value, right? What is the market trend, right? So you can look for the particular role in the industry. Okay, so the similar role in similar industry has you to have a gauge. Usually people talk about annual salary. So annual remuneration, because it's just more than the take-home salary. It also includes other benefits, allowance, bonuses, commission, etc. Alright, okay, so the last tip that I'm going to give you all before I let you all off to have your beautiful evening ahead is enjoy the conversation. Okay, I want you to understand is that when you're having an interview, it is really it's really a conversation. Okay, yes, they are assessing you, but do you think it's also true that you are assessing them? You are. Okay, if you happen to not enjoy the conversation, you don't like the interviewer, you don't like the vibes, there's no way you're going to enjoy working in the company. So as much as the company is assessing whether you are a good fit, you at the same time is also assessing whether this company is a place that you want to work for. Okay, so with that in mind, right, it will really reduce that level of stress, the level of anxiety that you may feel if you ever come for an interview. All right, I want you to level the playing field. I don't think you should put yourself anything lower than the interviewer. No, you're not. Okay, so everybody is being assessed equally, supposedly. Okay, so you shouldn't. So in terms of positioning, mutual respect. Okay, mutual respect. They are assessing you, you are also assessing them. So it will be a conversation. So my last tip for you is, for any interview, in terms of preparing for it, you must tell yourself that you are there also to understand about the company, understand about your future colleagues. If these are your future colleagues that you don't enjoy talking to or working with, they give you super bad vibes, right? Then no, it's not going to work. It's not going to work out, right? Okay, so enjoy the conversation. It's just that this conversation is very strategic. Okay, the choice of words is very important. Alright, so these are the 5 tips for interview preparation that I want to share with all of you tonight, and I hope that for those of you who have stayed throughout, you actually got some good tips. Yeah, and it will really help you in your conversation moving forward. And for those who like pop in and pop out, obviously you won't catch this anyway, but hopefully yeah, you can. I will upload the replay onto my YouTube. Okay, so but maybe not so soon, maybe end of the week or next week. Okay, so the replay will be uploaded onto my Project Jobless YouTube channel, so you can actually watch the replay there. So before I end tonight, just thank you everyone for joining me tonight for this hour session, for taking your precious evening off and listening to me. I really appreciate it very much. I'm Samantha, I'm based in Singapore, and I'm a career futurist whereby I help a lot of professionals to position themselves for success with the up and coming with not even up and coming, with the existing disruption caused by Industry 4.0, a lot of jobs are being automated, or rather certain functions of many jobs are being replaced. Okay, and because of this replacement and this displacement of jobs coming in, a lot of professionals, a lot of workers are finding themselves at a loss. So that's why a lot of people are going through transitions and things like that. So that's where I come in. I help all these professionals to figure out what is the next career move and which one makes more sense. So that is what I do day in and day out. So that is the reason why I'm here tonight, to share with you some interview tips, because these are the things that on a day in and day out basis that I do and I deal with. Alright, so I'm not anything better or smarter than you. Okay, it's just that I'm doing this more often than you. That's why I'm here to share. Alright, so if let's say you would like to follow me for more tips and strategies, feel free to follow me on TikTok. Okay, and in my TikTok profile, I have a link whereby you get to see me on other platforms like LinkedIn and YouTube. Alright, so I'm actually very much active on LinkedIn itself because it's a professional site. So I post quite a lot of articles there in terms of trending. You can also join me on my Telegram channel whereby I will post some updates. Okay, so all these are free. Okay, so thank you once again. I'm Samantha. I'm the founder and principal trainer of Project Jobless as well. So Project Jobless is aimed to impact 1 million lives, not just in Singapore, but it's a global thing. It's a worldwide thing. So after running my first workshop in August, okay, so it's not a big class, but it's a good start because I just launched it this year. I have participants from Vietnam, Hong Kong, Singapore, and yeah, it went on very well, and I'm very heartened by all the support that I'm getting. Alright, so I love to have more conversation with all of you. So I am really not able to do live every day because it's too much. To be honest, it's too much. Okay, so what you can do is you can continue to follow me. I would love to dedicate more time so that I can do more sharing here. Usually you should find me twice a month here on TikTok live. Alright, so thank you everyone for coming in tonight. If you want to watch the replay on interview tips and strategy, I will upload it onto my YouTube, so you should be able to access them by end of this week, or if not, mid of next week. Alright, so thank you once again. I'm gonna end the session because it's been an hour. Thank you everyone. Have a good night, have a good day wherever you are. Stay well and stay safe. Ta-ta!